This episode of the MSP podcast is brought to you by Big Tex Outdoors. Everything you could possibly need for your firearm. If he doesn't have it, you probably don't need it. And PHLster holsters. Can't do a sub 5-second fast drill? Well, get a PHLster holster. If you still can't, well, at least you know it's not the holster's fault. And primary and secondary, the definitive source for the armed professional and the responsible citizen. Quit your bitching about all the rules and get better. Hey guys, welcome back to the Modern Samurai Project podcast, nicknamed the Get Better podcast, nicknamed the Self-Reliant podcast. Why do I sell self-reliance? Because it's more than just about guns and stuff. It's about nutrition. It's about medical. It's about getting your martial arts on and about training with firearms. Because the bottom line is no one's coming to save you. You got to do it on your own. So super stoked to have Zee Durham on the podcast. You and I have never met face to face, but we got all kinds of mutual friends, from Drew Estelle to Sook. And I really dig your message, and we'll get into that a little bit. That being said, per my norm, I don't like to do introductions about people's backgrounds. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on here, Scott, and it's good to talk to you face to face. Finally, I dig your scene and I dig what you're about as well. And it's good to meet a guy that's into firearms and also the martial arts and putting everything together, knowing that we can't just be one dimensional and expect to be capable. So yeah, Zee Durham. I'm 40 years old. I'm married. I've been married almost 20 years, going on 20 years, and I've got 5 children. My oldest is 21. She's about to graduate 2 weeks from now. From Alabama, and I've got an 18-year-old, well, 19. She's 19. She's pregnant, due any day now. I thought it was going to happen during this last S12 event. She's married to a soldier here at Fort Campbell. I still live outside of Fort Campbell, where I retired out of, and so she's due any day. So I got a big family getting ready to start, and then my other 2 daughters, 14 and 13, and then my one lone son is 11. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, man.
So it's the premise for what we talked about earlier, what we're going to get into about my everyday people approach. But my background is I was started in the infantry in the U.S. Army. I did 6 years in the Rakkasans here at Fort Campbell. Usually you don't stay that long in the infantry here. They move you somewhere to Korea or some other base, but when they pay for you to go to Ranger School, they give you retention. And then I had 3 deployments in the 6 years that I was with the Rakkasans, Kosovo, and then after 9/11, of course, we went to Afghanistan, and then 2003 went to Iraq. And after Iraq, doing a year there, as the straw that broke the camel's back, I felt like I gave everything I could to the guys I promised to lead the best I could, and I took off to selection, went to the Special Forces selection, the Green Berets. Made that, went to Fort Bragg, where you do the Q course, the qualification course, spent my time there, and then I came right back to Campbell. I wanted to be in 5th group. I wanted to try to learn Arabic, and I wanted to operate in the Middle East because I knew that's where the fight was. So came right back there. So I kind of had a boring career as far as moving around goes. A lot of people say they moved from base to base. I stayed at Fort Campbell for all the time, pretty much. So
that's interesting, man. So I always say non-mil, non-LE, but I'm an Air Force brat. Bro, I moved more than you did, man. We probably moved 12 times. The time my dad was in.
Yeah, I didn't see many military bases. The good thing about the military, though, is all the different people come to you, because there are people from all over the world coming here. But I liked it because I could focus on my job, is the way I looked at it. Like, instead of worrying about the personal stuff, which was a blessing and a curse, kind of, and we can get into that. But so I spent the rest of my time with 5th Special Forces Group, and pretty much the whole time I was there, I was a part of it was called the SIF then. It's called the CRIF now. It's basically one company per group has a direct action hostage rescue mission, and that's changing like every day. It seems like, kind of flowing into something different depending on the climate. as far as the military goes, as far and what they do for a job. So back when we did it, it was we worked task force with CAG or Delta and the SEALs, and then we
Hmm.
go over and do unilateral missions. Unilateral meaning that we were doing it just as an American force, but we also rotated in and did what the Green Berets do is FID, Foreign Internal Defense, where you're working alongside the partner forces in the other countries. So we worked
Hmm.
mainly a big impact in my career was working with the Iraqi counterterrorist force, which are great
Okay.
soldiers, some of the best in the Middle East as far as their training and their aggression, that mindset of aggression that you need to really be good at CQB and good at war in general. And those guys are awesome, and I was proud to work with them. So when all was said and done, I got out retired. I medically retired, 18 and a half years. And there's a long story behind that. I don't want to get into it, except for people that know me personally.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm out now. I'm 40. I got this family, and I'm trying to do something with it.
Yeah, man. You're doing good things. You're doing good things. So real quick, again, as I get this industry, you meet some amazing people. And one of the things that I am very fortunate is that I have a lot of friends, mentors, or whatnot that are part of, the soft units and stuff. One of the, and I'm learning new and new things every day that I think the general public doesn't know. For example, in special forces, each group has their own area of concentration geographically. Am I wrong about like seventh group is South America, right? Like my friend Mike
Yes,
Green, right? What's fifth group's area of concentration? Is it the Middle East or?
the Middle East in general. I mean, that's our concentration as far as where, because every Green Beret is required to have a language capability, and
Mm,
it's that language capability is directly correlated with the region that their group covers, right?
okay.
So our region covers the Middle East, so everybody Arabic, Pashto, languages of that sort. So yeah, Middle East is our main area of focus, but obviously due to the war on terrorism and all the things that have taken place since 9/11, everybody's kind of focused on the Middle East, right? So
Right. Right. So are those assignments fluid in the groups?
yeah, kind of. I mean, it just depends on where the action is, where the work needs to be done, and one group can't support everything going on in the Middle East
Right.
because we got different missions. When it's not combat, you're going over there doing these JSETs, which is basically working with partner forces, just basically for access and placement of special forces soldiers, so we can be in those areas, know that region, but also to help support our partners and our alliances and help their guys train on some basic stuff and give them that mindset of being capable. Uh, so we have placement. We do build rapport, develop relationships with those countries, and we learn so much more just being immersed in those areas. So even when we're not in combat, you're doing something over there in those other countries,
Right.
constantly gone.
Right. Okay. Actually, we didn't mention it. What's the name of your training company?
Instructor Z.
Instructor Z.
That's
That
it.
okay.
That's
So
it.
okay, that's not to be confused with Instructor Zero, right?
Yeah, I did. I had a. It was an Instagram thing. It started with right
Yeah.
because I never had Instagram until I got out of the military. I started in 2016, and I didn't give a damn about social media, right? But I
Right.
realized the marketing potential, and then everybody that was involved with it, and I had different names, and I went with Instructor Z, playing around,
Yeah.
and it just kind of stuck, And it was a play on Instructor Zero because I heard of that guy. I thought it was kind of funny,
It's
and
hilarious, dude. It's hilarious, man. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. So during all this, right? You said you were in for how long? 18, 19,
18 and a half years.
18. So you're doing all this stuff, GWAT's going on and everything, and somehow during all that time, you started jujitsu, right? When did you start doing jujitsu? Was that the first martial art you did? Was that a progression? Super interested in that.
So it's kind of funny story, right? So I consider myself a tough guy for a long time,
Yeah.
and
That's how it always
I,
starts out, right?
I was a criminal and a basically an asshole as a young person in high school. I didn't finish much. I got a GED, a good enough diploma. I didn't even finish high school, but I consider myself an athlete, a basketball player. I like football, and I never got into wrestling. Wish I did now.
Yeah.
So one day, living my crappy turd life as an 18-year-old back in Greenville, South Carolina, where I'm originally from, I got too bad. Like I was doing too much stuff, getting in trouble, and I hadn't thought this thought one day or 1 second prior to this day, and I said, you know what, I gotta leave. I think I'm going to join the military, and I
Mm.
immediately went that day. Went to a recruiter's office. I went to the Marines because they got the nice uniforms, right? And you hear about the Marines being so tough.
Yep.
Where I'm from, they're all the recruiting offices are right beside each other. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty much that way everywhere. And I walked in, went to the Marines, and they told me the deal. And I walked out, and the Army recruiter was outside. When I got out there, and he said, "Hey, man, we pay you more." And I was like, "All right, let's go talk." So I went in there, started the process, and so I went to the infantry, like I said. And all this time, being an athlete, being a fairly in shape guy, being, having that alpha mindset, I guess, really a low self-esteem mindset that pushed me to
Yeah.
to 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 overachieve and everything, or try to anyway. Um, I thought I was tough, I did a lot of bluffing. I come from a rough neighborhood. I was raised the only white guy in the neighborhood for several years. My stepdad was black when I lived with my mom, so we lived in a neighborhood where I was the minority for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn to be tough to some degree, right?
Yeah.
But it once you get into the infantry, we did this thing called pitting. I don't know if you ever heard that terminology, pitting, but it's the same as rolling, except they don't give you no guidance, no rules. They put you in the grass. There's no real safety or risk mitigation.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, go after each other and try to do something until the other guy's too tired to fight anymore, you do good against guys that didn't know anything. And then I met people that either wrestled or had some background in martial arts. And I didn't like the feeling of being on my back, tired as hell, exhausted because my strength and athleticism didn't work.
Yep.
And in my mind, I'm like, I'm tough. And as soon as I get up, I'm gonna beat your ass. As soon as I get up,
It's
right? So it's like, well, get up then, So after that, it changed something in me, and I went along a little while because of my time uh, as far as towards my job being a squad leader. I left the infantry as a squad leader as an E6, a
mm-hmm.
staff sergeant. So I never committed to it much then, but as soon as I got to the Q course, we started doing lines training, which was kind of reminds me of Aikido or Krav Maga type stuff, right? Catch the arm, grab it, turn, break it,
Right.
and break their arms, like all these things that might work on drunk Uncle Bob. But
Yeah.
right,
Butterflies fly out your hand and they swarm
right.
his face and
I just
he
catch
falls down.
I
Yeah.
catch fists in the sky. Anyway, but I met a couple of guys. Tim Kennedy, I'm sure you know the UFC fighter Tim Kennedy. He was in the Q course when I was in the Q course.
Oh, okay.
So I met him a little bit. I didn't know him real well. I'm not acting like I know him real well, but his background and then a couple other guys that had a background in it. I started seeing them and I recognized, this is my chance to address a shortcoming of mine, a
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability of mine that I've been wanting to for a long time. So this is around 2004 or 5 time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so after that, I got to my assignment, 5th Group, Fort Campbell, met up with the gym, some good guys here. They weren't soldiers. They used to play football at a local college here, and then they started the gym, and they were into MMA. So a typical MMA gym, I don't know if your experience with them, but
Oh, I got plenty
yeah,
of experience. Yeah.
yeah. So it's not they didn't have a traditional martial arts instructor in any one
Yeah.
facet, right? They
Yeah.
just guys that kind of brought stuff in. We had Jonathan Ivy, which was a big fighter around here, the leg lock monster they call him. I think he's got more losses than wins, but he's got the most leg lock wins in MMA. He was a little stocky guy. He was the teacher, and he learned from Eve Edwards. If you
Oh,
ever you
okay.
heard of Eve Edwards, they're from Texas. They trained in
Yeah.
Texas
So
together.
I do know, yeah, I know of Eves because we have a
Uh,
common thing. I actually started jujitsu in '96 under John Lewis, and
okay.
Eves trained under John for a long time. So
I got
yeah,
you. Are
yeah.
you from Texas originally?
No, no, no. So Eves
I
used to
see
go back.
big
So
Tex
John
on that.
Lewis. Oh well, this is that's Ike. He's one of the sponsors. Jedi 15
Gotcha.
gets you 50% off at Big Tex Outdoors. Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway. Yeah, so John Lewis was he's an old he was a Hickson brown belt, judo Gene LaBelle, was where he got his in his thing, in his black belt, in his thing, and then he became, after he kicked the crap out of Carlos Gracie Jr. in extreme combat, Andre Pedneris gave him his black belt. So, and he was like one of the only jiu-jitsu schools in Vegas when the UFC erupted. So everybody used to go train with John. I
nice.
trained there for about 2 years and then took 13 off
So,
before I went
so you
back.
got
Yeah.
that's how it happens sometimes.
Yeah, man.
Everyday people, everyday
Yep.
people.
Yep.
Well, so Eve Edwards trained John. John came to Clarksville. He's a tough guy, and the tough guy mindset came, and he kind of just in his in the new culture of MMA, kind of threw everything at us.
Hmm.
A little bit of jiu-jitsu, a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of striking, and I ended up having 7 MMA fights before I ever put on a gi.
Oh, no shit. Oh, wow. All
So
right.
I,
Okay.
yeah, so I did 6 or 5 amateur and 2 pro, and then I broke my knuckle in one of my fights, and my team sergeant for the ODA, the Operational Detachment Alpha that I was on at SF, said,
Hmm.
"All right, no more civilian side fighting for
Hmm.
you since you're breaking our government property, right?"
Right, right.
So I was like, and then, I was more committed to the Army anyway. I
Yep.
understood it was just like a side hobby. So I quit that and then got into the Army Combatives program, which I was still allowed to compete in.
Hmm.
And you have to wear the uniforms, right? You
Yep.
got to learn
Yep.
the gi or you're going to get choked. So that's when I put on the gi, and I got a blue belt from Israel Gomez, who was a Muay Thai trainer for Anderson Silva back in the day, but he was local.
Okay.
Killer Bees. I think he's in Florida now. But I got my blue belt from him, and rest is history. I just started training in the gi a lot and competing in the Army here and there when I was back from deployments or training, and just stuck with the gi. And it took me a long time because I started late, but once I got committed, I went pretty fast.
Yeah, so I want to get into that with you about it. And gun guys, I'm sorry, we're going to talk about jujitsu. You should be thinking about jujitsu too. Anyway, so gi versus no gi, right? So as a person who has had 7 fights, who has done what you have done, and talking to Drew. By the way, Drew tried to get me come out when I was staying with him and we were doing a little project. He tried to get me out with you. Knuckle draggers, and I was like, dude, I got to get back. He sends me a picture of a black eye. I'm like, bro, is this jiu-jitsu? What are you guys doing, man? He's like, oh, it's all great. So next time I'm out there,
Fast.
dude, I want to come out. I want to come out, man. It's awesome. Anyway, so what are your things, right? So because we're gonna get into the everyday people, average citizen guy, and the thing about the gi that some people who have like real tertiary view of jujitsu is that no gi is more realistic than gi. I'm not trying to load you up either way, but what are your thoughts on that? Because you traditionally you do gi more than no gi now, right? Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, I mix them up. I do it, both weekly, but for a long time I did no gi. I started out no
Mm,
gi,
yeah.
and then took me a while to catch up with all the gi possibilities, even when I put on a gi, right? All the options you have. I'm sure
Yep.
you understand what I'm talking about, like the
Yep.
neck, especially. So I think guys, for marketing reasons or for whatever reasons that are popular and more hyper focused on the jujitsu world, they get into those arguments, just like gun guys, Glock versus M&P or whatever. They
Yeah.
want to get into these discussions when I've got better things to do. Um, uh, I think they both have their contributions,
Hmm.
obviously, and I think that for a traditional self-defense role, if you're not just going to be into the sport, if you're not going to get into the jiu-jitsu subculture slash culture now, it's kind of big, then I think gi gives you all the opportunities. It's basically giving you the mindset to take advantage of anything that your opponent presents to you to use to win.
Okay.
Like maybe that's consider too many options in the competition world. Like, hey, let's give ourselves a handicap where we can be slippery and we have less to hang on to. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's going to be more of a handicap when you're trying to get a hold of someone and control their body. But self-defense mindset, anything you give me, I want to use to my advantage. And it's training me to look for those things and take advantage of those. And even with a t-shirt, something that would easily rip under, you know, during a violent encounter potentially, like you can ball them up and do all kinds
Yep.
of stuff. I'm sure you've seen all that stuff. Like
Yep.
I can still
Yep.
use that. So, and I like to think full spectrum. Yeah, I like the sports part, but once you get involved enough, I can kind of differentiate on what we're doing based off of the environment I'm in or what we're trying to accomplish for that training session. So I think be well rounded, learn to utilize everything in your environment, including what the opponent is wearing. And I think that's a good mindset to have when we're talking strictly self defense and not just trying to be the best in the world at competing, you know?
Right. Right. Absolutely. So why do you think you? What was it? Just the fact that in jiu-jitsu you can go 100% and not break a knuckle? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's always injuries in jiu-jitsu, right? When you get guys going 100%. But why not? I'm sure you had some Muay Thai training. I'm sure you had some boxing, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
when you were doing your MMA. Why jiu-jitsu? Why'd you take that to the highest? One of the highest levels that you can get instead of the others.
Uh, Well, I say one thing is just access to it for one. Like I just
Mm,
had a good at the fifth group, the Special Forces group here at Fort Campbell's fifth Special Forces group. We had a gym, a combatives gym called Legion Gym,
mm,
and we just got a lot of different backgrounds come through there because everyone at the post, all the soldiers and independents, anyone who could get on post had access to it, and we didn't kick anybody out. We had some black belts there, who I got my black belt through, which is Ray Casillas uh, of Zenith under Don Drysdale.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So another
Uh,
guy who used to train under John Lewis, Drysdale out in
yeah,
Vegas. Do you
yeah.
know? Oh God, I'm Sean. He's a Zenith guy. I used to train with him back in the day. What the
Sean
hell?
Hammonds? No,
He's in the Triangle in North Carolina right now. Ah, that's okay.
I don't
That's all
know.
right. Yeah, that's okay, bro. Keep on going. He's got like the
Uh,
most Naga wins in history and shit like that. So anyway, keep going.
gotcha.
Yep.
Uh,
So just
where
access,
was that?
just access
Oh
to
yeah,
it.
just had access to the gym, so we had great guys doing jiu-jitsu there, and because of the combative scene too, the Army combatives, I went that way because that's what you start off with. They have a graduated competition system for the Army combatives, meaning that you start in the beginning of the tournament and all straight combatives and grappling, right,
Mm-hmm.
with your uniform on, and then if you pass through to the next round with your wins, then you go into pancrase, where your open hand slaps, punches to the body,
Okay.
leg kicks, and you had shin pads on as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so you graduated to that, and then the last round you graduated to basically MMA rules,
Yeah.
amateur MMA rules in a cage or a ring of some sort, and you had the gloves and everything. So you had to learn that grappling. You had to be good at that grappling, or you're not going to surpass or get past the first round. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because all the grapplers would beat everybody. So it was just that reason. And now as I'm getting older, 40, like I said, you learn that the more competent you become in jujitsu skills, using the leverage, learning not to be worry about athleticism so much, the strength as much because it's not there, honestly, like it used to be. And you can slow the pace down. And I was just teaching some guys this weekend about battle drills like reacting to contact, infantry battle drills, assaulting and maneuvering as an element um, or a team. And we were talking about dictating the pace. Well, if I can slow you down, and especially with those grips on the gi, I can
Mm-hmm.
kind of dictate the pace. So you get wrestlers. Wrestlers are great, and I still believe that the wrestling base is probably the best base for anybody. It's just
Oh
not as
yeah.
accessible
Yep.
at an older age, right? Because there's nobody doing folk style wrestling for old guys, really. It's not as
Because they don't
accessible.
that club those clubs don't last that long, bro. Because we just get broke.
Right. And I notice and I tell the guys like you can't keep that wrestling pace forever. I know
Yeah.
guys that were great wrestlers and they try to maintain that same mindset and pace, pushing through. You can't do it. It's a young man's sport. It's a young athletic man's sport. And jiu-jitsu affords you that opportunity to continue to grapple and find ways to slow it down and dictate your pace, but still be effective and be offensive. And if I can be offensive from any position versus just one position, like on top, then I prefer that, because there's somebody somewhere out there that can put my ass on my back and and subdue me and has better skill than me in certain areas. I want to be able to be offensive or put them on the defense from
Yep.
any position, right? So I think just thinking with that mindset and how accessible it is, and because of my the exposure to it through the Army Combatives program, is like that's what put me on the jiu-jitsu route, and I just stuck with it, like I said, because the older I get, I'm not getting any more athletic or stronger, right? I'm just
Yeah.
kind of deteriorating.
Yep, exactly, exactly. So let's kind of all tie that in with the training company. It's funny when the first time I thought I had an inkling that you were involved in jiu-jitsu was one of the S12 videos, I think from last year, and you were doing the mobility exercises, right? And I'm like,
Right.
that's a jiu-jitsu warm-up, man. What's this dude? And then so I messaged Mick, I go, is he a jiu-jitsu guy? He's like, oh yeah, man, he's a badass. Blah, blah, blah. So like that's awesome. So that's awesome. And then somebody else told me a rumor that you had helped out somebody else that's infamous on the Instagrams. We had that conversation. So that I
Okay.
thought, yeah, I thought that was super cool. So how are you tying all that together? And I want to put it into the context of um, being on social media a lot because it's the business, right? And just like, everybody knows that, my day job is I'm a mortgage guy. So I've been in sales and marketing for almost 25 years now. And it is an art, much more so than a science. So watching all that stuff. And when like the regular, soft guys come out, there's a couple of things. There's that super quiet professional. Hey, this is what I did. If you want to come to my class, awesome. If not, I got my retirement, right? And then there's the other guy who is the raging cockface, right? Where he's just like, hey, look at me. You're not me. You suck. Let's do this. Everyone's stupid, right?
Yeah.
Uh, that usually doesn't work out too well either. And then you have someone like yourself or like Drew, which is like, hey, this is what I have. Let me document something for you. Here's my twist on it. If you dig it, that's awesome. Let's train. Let's get deep into things. Your niche is very interesting in like you are, from what I have seen, you're kind of like the soft jujitsu John Correa guy from Active Self Protection. It's very similar. It's very similar, but you have I think you actually use the hashtag everyday people, right? That's kind of your thing. Why are you so interested in that as opposed to running 30 CQB classes a year?
Well, there's a lot of levels to that as far as my answer goes, but the biggest thing, I guess, philosophical, uh, the start of it is I've I've had I've been forced to become a little bit humble in my career.
Hmm.
I achieved a lot of things, based off of essentially I just needed to prove something all the time. So I pushed
Yeah.
myself real hard, and that's from a superficial or surface standpoint, that looks like great. You did a lot of things, but I know my reasoning, right?
Yeah.
And the reasoning was just because nothing was ever enough for me, right? So doing all that, you get to a certain point, and it's like, what is this? I mean, what did I really do? Like, what's important, and what does this mean for my legacy as far as the people that will care for me and love me when I'm old and not able to do stuff for myself? And so it stopped meaning so much to me. And through all that, uh, I developed some humility because of my failures. Because here's the way it is with a guy that was so ambitious and focused on success like I was at the time. Like, you come to a point, you have two paths to take when you meet failure or you meet the mortality that you have, being a
Hmm.
human and being imperfect. You either you meet that failure and it either ruins you and you find a way to avoid that feeling the rest of your life, or you push through the uncomfortable shit that you're not used to, and you try to figure out why you're that way and try to fix it to some degree. And I came to that road, and it was either for me, and I'm putting it in the most simple terms, it was either die or do something about it.
Yeah.
Because the mindset that I'd have if I just succumbed to that I didn't want that feeling anymore, would be an addictive mindset, would be a drinking, and eventually I could see myself uh, doing like many poor veterans and just giving up on life, you know. And to be honest, if I didn't have children and a wife that I knew that would live with that memory forever for the rest of their lives and be wondering why I did that, then I might have succumbed to that a long time ago.
Mm.
Just giving up on life. So I met humility, and it made me really evaluate what's important, and also tell myself that through my journey to recognize my value, my true value versus just accomplishments and credentials, which I know means nothing now. I
Hmm.
Well, I mean, I say that loosely, right? It means nothing,
No,
but
no, I get
for
you.
the
I,
reasons
I
that I
get
give,
you.
but it means nothing to my family, to the people that meant anything to me. And I realized that I started looking at people with a clear view of human imperfection because I see myself that way, and I was able to, once I passed through that threshold of Z, you failed and you're still okay, you're still valuable despite anything, despite your past, despite today, even, you're still valuable. You don't lose your value. It gave me a new lens because they say you look at other people the way you look at yourself, right? That's how you see
Hmm.
everybody else. So I started
Yeah.
seeing everybody else the same way. I seen value in everyone. I see that just because you had a title or because you had some experience in the military, that it doesn't define you, right? I see what you bring to the table.
Hmm.
And then I started putting all that together because in SF we appreciate the guys with the different skills that come to the table. You don't need just a shooter, just a tough guy. I mean, yeah, that's good. That's great. You definitely want that, but you got guys that bring the other things to the table, and it helps out when you're off on your own, uh, doing everything for yourself. So all these things tied in together, and I realized that everyday people have something to bring to the table, and
Hmm.
just because I have a background, just because I say this, and I'm sure you met this, and there's a myth out there by a lot of people that are really just ignorant. They're not critically thinking. They think that if you've been a law enforcement officer or a military guy, then all of a sudden you know everything about guns and tactics, and you can beat everybody's ass that don't know have that experience. And that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But I understand where it comes from, right? We
Yeah.
just believe certain things because you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you just kind of go along with what you've always been taught, I guess. But seeing all that, I was like, I'm human, but I'm still valuable, and it's not to do with what my background is or what I've done in the military because I've been a pretty shitty person even with all those accomplishments. You can ask my wife and kids that, right? So, and I looked at other people that way too. I was like, hey, they're doing a lot more than me. Sometimes I used deploying and getting and leaving home as an excuse to do something that fed my ego and heart.
Hmm.
I wasn't going out and fighting in the military because I was just such a patriot, and I just wanted my country to, and I read the Constitution every day and was like, yes, you know what I mean? I went
Yeah.
out because it fed my ego. It made me who I am. It defined me. It gave me an identity, and I sucked into that like a drug.
Yeah.
So I threw all that aside, and I don't judge others by that. I mean, yeah, I judge them for what I see. Like, yeah, if you're not in shape, you're not in shape. So maybe you need to get in shape. It'll help you in other facets of life. If you're not tough, then you need to get more tough-minded. Yeah, I went to the military and it helped develop some of that mindset and some of my physical abilities. But it's not the end all be all. It doesn't make me any more valuable than you. It doesn't make you more valuable than me if you have accomplishments. You have something to offer. I have something to offer. We're people. We can work together in this. I'll bring my skills to the table. You bring yours to the table. And none is more valuable than the other, in my opinion, right? From a philosophical standpoint, like
Hmm.
you got love. If you understand love and family truly being there uh, for others and the consideration for other humans, you're doing lot better than me, man. I really respect that, and I need to learn from that. So that's the way I took it, and it's weighed on my heart. And I think that's everyday people. We're everyday people. I don't give a damn
Hmm.
what your background is, and I don't need to build up. I mean, yeah, it gets me indoors with credentials. Like if I tell you all my bullshit and your people's like, whoa, that's awesome. And that's nice. That's an advantage. It's like white privilege, you know. But it's also, as you know, the industry's saturated with that shit, and
Mhm.
I don't want to be one of those guys. I want you to know, if I'm talking to people out there, I want you to know that anything humanly possible is possible for you, and it's not cliche bullshit. I'm not trying to make you Michael Jordan. I'm just saying everything you have brings a lot to the table. If you're taking care of you and yours, and you're loving people, and you're showing them that they have value in life, I think that is one of the best things you can do, and that's a skill that I didn't learn. I didn't have a good
Mhm.
family, you know,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to make up for that, and I'm trying to recognize those that bypassed the glory, so to speak, what's considered glory by our society of being some top-notch dude or cool guy. You bypassed that and went for what was truly important, whether you know it or not, and that's commendable, man. And let me help you with my skills, be even more capable. And I say capable citizens all the time. I want capable citizens like you're capable. Like get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, get some mindset in there, get some composure in the face of violence, so that everything that you built your life on to develop those relationships with the ones you love, it's not going in a flash because catastrophe or or terror happened and you wasn't prepared a little bit, or you were a liability instead of
Right.
an asset, you know. So that's kind of my angle there.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, dude. No, that's awesome. I will tell you the reason why I want to bring that up again. I guess I'm one of the few guys that does podcasts that actually listens to all the other podcasts. You know what I mean? And your last one on Mickey's was great, and that's why I want to get a little bit deeper into that. But I want to talk about two things: value and mindset, based on what you just talked about, right? So if I get off track, let's get back to those things, right?
Okay.
So value. How do you it's kind of a nebulous word, right? We try and see value in other people, and then you almost feel bad when you're like, bro, you're just a shit show. I'm sorry. You need to find something. It might not be Jesus, but you need to find something, right? But in your philosophy, what is how do you define value, and how did because you said you were going off on deployments and you weren't a great person and stuff like that. What changed in that? When did you start finding true value in things that you value now, for lack of a better term? Where'd that come from?
Well, it's back to that path I told you about. It was either
Hmm.
die, con- continue to do what the definition of insanity is, repeat the
Hmm.
same shit over and over, expecting a different result, right?
Yep.
Or figure something out. And I had to figure out that I'm valuable. I carried a lot of shame and guilt for the things that I've done, right? And uh, for being selfish, for drinking too much, for not being faithful, for not being there for my kids and being selfish with my time.
Hmm.
Like and I really was, I broke it down in my head the most simplest way possible. And it was that I want to die if I can't figure out something to live for.
Yeah.
If I can't figure out that I'm valuable despite all that. And that's where the value, and so the value to me when I look at people is we're valuable. That's it. You're
Yep.
human, you're valuable. We have a soul, we have uh, a miracle that makes our body run like it does, right? And I'm without getting into the religious aspect of things, I do believe in God, and uh, I think it almost takes away from everything. Like if I wasn't doing this for something bigger than me, bigger than us, then I'd really have a hard time trying so hard in life. You know what I mean? Because I'm
Yeah.
a pretty cynical guy. I look at things how they are, what's in front of me. There's got to be something bigger than this. It's not by chance that we're all this miracles that make our body run and immune systems and things do the way they do, and all this technology and these advancements that we made and this intelligence that we have and the souls and the hearts that we have is not by chance. It's something that's by design, right? So I know if that's we're part of that design, we're valuable.
Yep.
Now, and you can say, well, what about these people? What about those people? What about people that have done this? And all I can say to that is I've done things that I'm not proud of. Maybe not what's considered the worst according to our society, but bad is bad. Evil is evil, and you do bad things. And I know that all of us are capable of doing good things, and I know all of us are capable of doing bad things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's no just good people, just evil people. You're capable of both, and we're inherently evil. One thing I was taught by a minister a long time ago is like, hey, when you were as a kid and you lied for the first time, who taught you to do that? Nobody.
Yeah.
Right? You
Yeah.
just lied. Nobody
Yeah.
taught you to damn lie. It's in you. It's in you.
Right.
Right? So I see it and I was like, people do bad things because they don't know anything different at that point in time. They don't know something. They're ignorant to something new. We're all in the same book, but they might be on this page. I might be on this page, right? And it just depends on their perspective, what they're exposed to, what the path of their life, right? But we're all worthy, equally worthy, I will say. We're
Yeah.
equally worthy, right? You're not better than me. I'm not better than you. You deserve love, Scott, as much as I deserve love,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't deserve love as much as I don't deserve love. Um, and that's value right there. And I had to take the labels off of things. The labels that we have, or the credentials, or the accomplishments we have, are just simply that. It's to show that I did something and I put forth this amount of effort and I have this much competence in this particular area at the time that I accomplished that. And that's another story. What you did
Mm-hmm.
is not as important as what you do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But so I look at that and say everybody's valuable. So I try my best not to be too judgmental. Yeah, I'm judgmental. I mean, I was raised in this world, in
Yeah.
this culture, in this society. So there's some things that I throw stereotypes, and I might automatically think certain thoughts when I see certain things, right? Like a lot of us. But I think critically. I diagnose why a lot of times. I'm getting in the habit of that, and I see people and I say, well, they're doing this, and let me give them the benefit of the doubt. I give people the benefit of the doubt, not to my detriment, and I don't risk more than I should, like my family are putting me out because I got to take care of mine and I'm responsible for that. But I'll give everybody a fair shake to the best of my ability, and that's part of my view on value of
Yep.
them. They're capable. They're capable. Maybe they haven't figured it out yet.
Right.
Maybe they hadn't figured it out, but I
Well,
love them.
and
That's it.
you might be that teacher that sets off the light bulb.
Maybe, hopefully, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully that
Yeah.
helps somebody.
Yeah. And that's the thing, value is it's a great term, and it's the first time, maybe not the first time I've heard it explained that way, but in the context of of our culture. I ask people all the time. I think the industry, the training industry, is changing. Again, I'm a newbie. I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years, but only doing the traveling thing for a couple now. And, I'm very interested in finding other instructors and teachers. And, like Ernest Langdon told me, he was like, dude, the best teachers, the best thieves. To maintain honor, give credit where credit is due. So I'm always out there trying to find new things, new words that resonate. But value is an interesting thing because today, the classes where you go and it's 2,000 rounds of supervised drills and GWAT stories, that's not holding value anymore for people. I ask them, how did you get better? What did you learn? And they're like, I don't know, man, but it was a great time. A lot of ballistic masturbation, but I think that's changing. And I think, one of the reasons why, even though we've, never met, that in watching your media gravitated to me is like the first time I saw you doing those mobility drills at S12, I'm like, that's it. It's not all about this. It's about everything and how it relates to this as being, if you have chosen that avenue or that tool to use to protect yourself. So I thought that was awesome, man. Um, Mindset. So I've always said there are three things that it seems like every instructor has to bring up: mindset, fundamentals, and situational awareness, right?
Mm,
But none of them define it.
right.
Right? You ask 10 different instructors, what are the fundamentals? You're going to get 10 different answers. Right? You ask them what mindset is, it's like, I don't know, bruh, but you got to have it. right? And then and then situational awareness. Okay, well, how do I practice situational awareness? I don't know, man. Head on a swivel, type of deal. And I'm like, well, I'm going to look like an idiot going like this through the mall the whole time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, but before we go down all that path, let's describe mindset. What does mindset mean to you, and how do people get better at it, quote unquote, better at it?
Um, all right. So I've got my little spiel on this, but all right. So first off, mindset is relative to what we're talking about, right? The
Hmm.
environment we're talking about. So when I talk about mindset, I talk about getting getting things done in the midst of adversity. So that's where I'm really focus my philosophy on mindset because everything else is just I guess a general overall mindset is everything try to get better and take everything one day at a time and don't be too hard on yourself and look for the good things. We could talk about general life like mindsets, but what I preach a lot of, especially in the context of my classes, as far as self-defense and protecting yours and being in a life-threatening situation, is something that of all the things that I think are misinterpreted from my military experience or are used and taken for granted and uh, what's the word? Exploited,
Hmm.
right? The mindset, it sounds overused by military guys and guys from my background. And like the mindset, you got a combat mindset, and I really think that's one of the most valuable things that I've gathered from the military. Like something that made me it's a catch-22. It made me bad as a father and a husband, and then bad in my relationships, but made me fierce in the face of bad things, in the face of chaos. And that was the mindset to be able to flip the switch and compartmentalize in a millisecond, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I was kind of too good at it. It was cultivated in my young life, going through adversity and seeing people that were supposed to love you that didn't love you, and you had to turn that off in order to keep moving,
Yeah.
and you had to stop trusting people. So I had already cultivated that a little bit, and I refined it more so in the military, and I realized that this is a great asset and tool for me in the military. Like because when it's time to go, I'm like, forget you. I'm focused on this now.
Yep.
Or when it's time to fight this guy, forget all this. This is my goal. And it was easy for me. And I would drop everything just like that and flip that switch. Now I think there's a balance there. I think I
Yeah.
was I was on one extreme that caused problems in my personal life, right? The things that are more important, but maybe great at the military, awful at relationships. But once you refine it and you realize, and I think this can happen through training, conditioning your mind during training and sports psychology, they call it, talking through being able to drop whatever just happened, forget about the last play, forget about
Yeah.
what's going on right here and focus on what's important now, what's in front of you. That is like a flipping a switch, right? And you got to cultivate that to become automated, right? So you got to have people coach you through that or either slow down during those situations and go through that process, whether it be reading it off paper or whatever, and for your mind to make that a habit. And that's the mindset that I talk about with guys. Like, so you think during a fight or flight or freeze situation, you'll respond in one of those. And that OODA loop, and I'm sure
Hmm.
many of your listeners and yourself know the OODA loop, that basically
Hmm.
just the process of gathering information and figuring out what to do with it and then doing it, right? If I have a mindset and I've cultivated that mindset of flipping that switch in order to do violence or focus on what's important now right in front of me, hopefully I can speed that process up and have less of a lag time between seeing something happen that deserves violent action potentially and taking action, right? I want to take away that lag time. So the mindset for me is, can I flip that switch? And I preach that a lot with guys. I say different things like, I will not fucking lose. That's
Hmm.
got to be my mindset. Not because of ego, not because of some bravado thing, right? But I have to have that mindset when I'm going against adversity. I will not lose. I will not stay down, right?
Hmm.
I win. I will win. I must win. I have no choice but to win, right? I have no option. failure is not an option. And that's not, again, I want to reiterate, that's not a lifestyle philosophy where failure is not an option. That's in the moment. Failure is not an option, and that helps push you through when you're tired. And you've been in this in jiu-jitsu. You've been
Yep.
tired on the bottom, a guy heavy, he's crushing your face, and the whole time, and you may just start out like this, right? Usually, I know people, they get all kind of crazy and anxious because they're not able to move and they're not breathing good, and somebody's on top of them. But in jiu-jitsu, you're developing that mindset all the time. You're like,
Yep.
man, I'm uncomfortable. I'm tired. This is a awful position. I got man sweat on my lips, right, from another guy. But
It just got in my mouth too.
yeah, eventually you start developing that mindset where
Yep.
you're like, hey, I'm here. I'm in this awful situation that most people would freak out in, but I will not quit. I will not die today. I will keep moving. I'll get my breath. I'll do whatever it takes, but I'm not quitting.
Yeah.
And we develop that sometimes through quitting. We quit a little bit. You feel bad about it. You're like, man, I could have took a little more pain. My threshold was a little higher now,
Yep.
or I could have resisted. What was the worst that was going to happen, right? I'm here. I'm in a
Right.
safe environment, and back to jujitsu. It's kind of developing that mindset because we're constantly putting pressure on ourselves and doing pressure testing, and we're having to either adapt or die.
Yep.
You adapt or die. You
Yep.
adapt or quit. You adapt or you just continue to see failure all the time. So that's the same thing with competition, like you doing and being a master. You had to pressure test yourself, and when you failed, you didn't say, "Well, that's the game for me. That's it." You
That's
said,
it.
"Hey, well, let me
Yeah.
keep pushing," and then eventually you said, "All right, well, I just threw around, or I didn't reload fast enough, or I was out of sequence, or something like that." But you started making those adjustments during the competition, and you forgot about it, moved on, handled what was important now. So the mindset was, I don't quit. Failure's not an option. I don't stop and think about that now.
Yep.
That's not the time for it. I move on, and I do what needs to be done, and I act. I take action according to what's important now. So all that stuff, and I know that's not one definable word, I guess, but that's the mindset to me in relation
Well,
to this
I,
industry.
I'll tell you why I dug it. Uh, Instead of like a nice, precise definition of it, you gave people actionable items, right? If you can't define it, that's fine. But what can I do to get better? You know what I mean? So that's what I got. The funny thing is so as I was getting the business going, I was probably going to jujitsu once or twice a month. Now that the business is almost running automatic, and by what I mean running automatic, my wife is doing all the scheduling and comms. So so I'm going back now at 2-3 times a week. And it's funny, man, when you talk about developing that mindset and keeping it and understanding the pressure and being comfortable in it. The gross movements were still there. Maybe the details were missing, but I'll tell you what, man, the thing that you forget very quickly is the amount of pressure that can be put on your body. I was drilling with a white belt, and he's like a 3-stripe white belt, so not new, not great, but not new. And we were just doing some passing drills, man, and he got that cross collar, and he just came in on me, and I was like, oh shit. you know and the other thing I remember is getting more into shooting competitions. When I first started getting into it, man, I'm not going to say I didn't care because I always want to win, but here's the thing. I actually remember myself saying that. It's like, oh, I'm not going to get smashed by a 300-pound dude today. Easy day. As I stopped rolling and started competing more in shooting, uh I started getting more nervous at competitions. You know what I mean? And then I went, wait a minute. No one's gonna choke me. No one's gonna try and, armbar me. Why am I getting so nervous? And then it flows out. So that's a degree of it too, man. That's awesome. Cool. All right, brother. So we're at about 54 minutes in, man. So now comes the part of the show that I think everybody digs. It's the get it off your chest segment of the thing, right? So,
All right.
yeah, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about, just to kind of frame it. What do people need to start doing to get better? What do they need to stop doing to get better? And anything you want to talk about, it can be about, the training industry, mills, jiu-jitsu, whatever you want to talk about. Don't talk about your neighbors because nobody cares. But anyway, go ahead, brother.
Well, I hate my neighbor.
I'll tell
No.
you what.
Uh, I guess one big thing that I get mad, I want to get off my chest is I get kind of angry to say, to put it in the terms, I guess, angry, for lack of a better term, at the attention to equipment and gear and machines versus the approach to actual training. That being said, I take a step back and I kind of realize a little bit. People don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what they're lacking sometimes in the training department. So they figure they're at a level that's good enough because they haven't been exposed to certain environments or certain other people. And I've been there. I've been that guy.
Sure.
Um, and I, and I was thinking, I was in the mall the other day. I had to buy my son some new shoes, and I was going to get some new shoes. I wear out shoes quick because I move a lot and I'm heavy, so I wear
Mm-hmm.
my shoes out a lot. Um, so I was in there and I was looking at all these shoes, and I would be a sneakerhead. You've heard of sneakerheads, huh? They buy all the cool shoes and collect
Yeah.
them almost like guys do with guns sometimes and other things. They got like
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
Jordans,
Yep.
and I've got a couple Jordans that only because sentimental value I couldn't afford. Anyway, I was looking at all these shoes, right, and all the colors and the way they put them up in the mall, and man, it gets me excited. I want to look at every shoe. I'll be if I was a millionaire, I'd spend a bunch of money, and then I'd have to put things into perspective, and I'm like, what functionality would they have? I'd get them. I can't wear them every day. Like they go to waste. And when somebody else could have a pair of shoes, a good pair of shoes on their feet, and I'm just going to collect these things because they look pretty and because it meant something to me when I was
Yeah.
a kid.
Yep.
And I start looking at that, and the same thing that I need to get off my chest is something that I can also relate to in a different perspective with those shoes. And I started thinking about that. I was like, guys buy these guns. They want to collect all these things. They're not doing any training. They want the Gucci stuff. And I've also been the guy that looking at Gucci stuff and hating on other guys. Like, damn it, I wish I had that. Like the bigger house, like keeping up
Yeah.
with the Joneses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I don't like. I want people to realize that. All right, get you something. Hey, I ain't saying go buy a piece of crap and be happy with what you got. Get you something decent. Maybe looks decent that you ain't embarrassed to have on you. And then once you got that, that's enough to get started. Get some training. Go get some training. Start working on that mindset. Start working on those competencies,
Yep.
right? And that preparation that's going to help you be confident in a bad situation. So get something nice. Spend some money, but don't. Once you got something, you don't need another thing. You can only. I guess you got two hands. You could have two guns at once, I guess, but you can't carry them all on. It's not like Call of Duty where you just reaching back
Yeah.
and you're transitioning with everything, right? So have what you need. Maybe it's a shotgun for your house. Maybe it's an AR that's a short barrel and a long barrel for some guys that got more money. And then maybe it's a couple pistols, a smaller one for EDC and then a one for the range for whatever job that you might do. Something that's just bare minimum, something that you can work with and you like, and then start working with it. You know what I mean? So don't get caught up. Check yourself when you start looking at all those things and you see all the razzle dazzle like I do in the shoe store and say, all right, yeah, I do like it and it's okay to like that. But let me put things in perspective now and find out what could I really use and have functionality and not just be sitting around in my house and doing nothing. All right,
Yeah.
let's take advantage of that. So get off my chest. Say, hey, pay attention to that. It's fine if you feel that way. I feel that way. I see things that people have, and I want that shit so bad. Right? But then I just weigh it out. I'm like, well, do I need that? Is it that important? Sometimes on special days or when I got a lot of money in my pocket, I'll say, all right, well, let's indulge a little bit. But I still don't want a bunch of shit at my house that is doing nothing, right? Or just sitting there unless you got a reason for it, right? Like you got a museum. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's what I got, Scott. What do you
That's
think?
awesome, man, dude. So here's why I really dig the sneakers, the basketball shoes and the gun analogy because I think I've mentioned the reason why I have bad knees ain't because of jujitsu. It's because I pick up basketball in college. right? So I went to UNLV.
Hey,
Vegas
I'm a
is a big.
basketball player too, man. I'm excited.
Okay, there it is, dude. Sunset Park out in Vegas, man. It opens at 7 in the morning. It closes at 11 at night, dude. During college, man, before I met my wife, dude, I was on the court 3, 4 times a week. And if I wasn't on the court or at school or working, I was doing jujitsu. But we'll talk sometime about how awesome jujitsu was on a basketball court, by the way. Anyway,
Hey, so do you keep up with basketball now, Scott?
so here's the thing. Since we live on, so when we lived on the West Coast, right? Dude, I was because my dad's from Chicago, right? So big Chicago fan, obviously Michael and all them. Dude, I would do nothing but watch basketball. Now here on the East Coast, man, it's a little tough because it comes on so late, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I try and follow it the best that I can, but I'm not nearly the fanatic that I used to be. But
Agreed, man. I definitely put sports in perspective, a better perspective now. It's just people just like us. But I'm just trying to find out if there's a guy I can send these funny NBA videos to on
oh,
Instagram every
100%,
now and
dude.
then.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
have any buddies to do that. Nobody's into it like
yeah.
I am.
Oh, 100%. Especially if it's old school. Especially if it's old school stuff, man.
I've been into the DJ Michi Meech on Instagram. He does
Okay,
voiceovers
there
and
you
making
go.
fun of LeBron and stuff like that. So I'm gonna send you something. You tell me if you like it or not.
Okay, awesome, awesome, good deal. But I remember playing pickup ball, right? And out at Sunset Park, man, it was, it's just like any place. You got the A court, the B court, the little Filipino guys over there's court, and playing. And you see the guy walk in, right? Always had the new Jordans or the new Barclays and stuff. And then he
Oh,
gets
oh,
on, he's got the and ones. He's all, and then you go and my man dribbles like his eyes are closed.
yeah.
And you're like, damn, bro. Right? And it's the
He's
same thing when
looking good though. He's
he's
looking
looking
good.
sharp, 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 right? And then it's the same thing when you go to a training class or you're teaching a class and you got the dude out there, man. It's like he's got the Solomons and he's got the Cry and he's got the Velocity Rugby, man. And he's got the ALS and everything like that. He's got his RMR with the compensator. And you ask him what he does, and he's an accountant. And you're like, that's cool, bro. It's your money. You do what you want. And my man can't do anything. But you're coming to a class, awesome on you, right? But how about this, man? Instead of throwing that comp on there, which don't get me wrong, I love compensators and stuff like that on pistols, right? Why make shit harder? But if you don't know how to grip your gun right, right? And you're all, what I call, you're all shoulder in the air IDF squat leaning forward and you wonder why you can't find the dot. Maybe we should have taken just a little bit more time to worry about your grip and stance and stuff like that
Yeah,
before we throw all the Gucci stuff on there. Don't get me
yeah.
wrong, I'm the red dot guy, right? I'm all about that Gucci life, but it's because I can't see my irons in a dynamic, type of drill or exercise. So the dot has value
Well,
to me, right? Because I still want to be able to see
functional reasoning. Functional
functional
reasoning.
reasoning. Exactly. Instead of wanting to be, oh, well, that guy has it, or this looks really cool, and yada yada. Um, Skills based, man. Skills based, and use your kit to complement those skills, not to replace those skills. Because I tell you what, if your grip is shit, it doesn't matter if you have a compensator and light loads, you're still shit. It's still gonna jump. It's still gonna jump. So
Right.
yeah, man, I agree with that. So hey, dude, we're gonna wrap this up, man. Where can people find you? Social media. Throw out all the titles and stuff like that. Where are you teaching? What are you teaching? How can people get with you?
Okay, so start off. I got my website up. I run it myself. InstructorZ.com. That's ZEE, not just the letter Z, right? Short for Savon, my real name. Then Instructor Z on Instagram. That's Instructor underscore Z, and then Instructor Z underscore Bolo on Facebook. Um, Pretty much any Instructor Z crap, not zero, right? I'm not that's sexy.
Dude, I'm wondering
Um,
how many followers you got because people just didn't put in the whole zero word and they saw that.
I
It was
know.
like, oh, hold on.
See,
Dude,
marketing strategy right
it's
there,
there it
bro.
is, man. White guy with a beard. Let's stop here.
I think so. That's it. Also, my old sergeant major from SF, Carl, Erickson. He's a tactical rifleman. I do stuff with them, and I
Oh,
train him
okay. I've
mostly
seen
around.
his channel. I've seen his
Yeah,
channel. Okay.
he's a good guy. He lives right up the road, man, and he's really a good man. He's got a lot of knowledge. So tactical rifleman. Of course, I do stuff with carry trainer, and then I stay pretty much local. I don't travel too much. Family's more important than the rest, and I still suck at that, so I'm working at it. So that's where you can find me, man. Hopefully, guys reach out if you got any questions. I do the best I can to help out, and remember, you guys are capable. You're capable of anything anybody else is capable of. So don't sell yourself short, and use gear that's functionable, not
Yep.
sitting at home.
Yep. Awesome. And I encourage everybody, I think your biggest probably social media venue right now is Instagram. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and for those people that say, yeah, you're not going to get, the micro adjustments and stuff like that you in a class, but guys, you can learn from social media, especially when it's a very good teacher instructor. I encourage you to go out to Instructor Z's the IG page, because you will learn some things, at least things that will make you think. A lot of content over on our friend Mickey's page, Carry Trainer, from his S12 events. You probably got what, 10, 12 videos of your little snippets of your instruction on there, all which is awesome. So yeah, so hey guys, time to pay the bills. Otherwise, Mrs. Jedi, the CFO, will get mad at me. If you guys want to come train out with me, first place to find me is my social media, Modern Samurai Project on YouTube, where these go up. Got my little snippets on what I think is important, how to get better. ModernSamuraiProject.com is where the classes are listed, and that'll take you to the registration page. I'm all over. I'm doing something like close to 50 classes this year. So if you're interested, come train with me, and I'm not coming near you. You ain't looking hard enough, right? So as usual, guys, take what we said, take out the value of it, try to apply it to your own self and get better. And above all that, be good, stay safe, get training.